I put on my dress shirt today because we're getting down to business in this video. This video is inspired by the lovely Ivy from 0 Degrees Taurus. I watched a video that she did on her channel where she responded to astrologers on TikTok and some of the crazy things that they're saying on there. And I thought, wait a second, this is a brilliant video idea. And I too want to respond to crazy TikTok astrologers. So here's a very cool story. In typical Aquarian fashion, I am actually not on TikTok. I had to download TikTok specifically for this video. I know, that's how dedicated I am to your entertainment. Honestly, also to my entertainment. So I had a look around. I did a bit of searching of the world that is astrology TikTok. And I found a couple of videos that I just want to set the record straight for. I found a couple of them were just plain right not true and based on nothing. And others just bring up a really good discussion that I thought we could have here. So let's jump into the first video. So while I understand that maybe this type of content on TikTok does really well, it's short, it's kind of very to the point, and people love to like see themselves low in the list or high in the list and like make fun of it. I get it. But I really hope that all of us on this little community on this side of YouTube know that this is completely not true. You cannot base someone's angriness just on their sun sign, which is what this TikTok is doing. There is so much more happening in a birth chart of a person. You have the moon sign, the Mars sign, the Venus sign, so much there. And the birth chart has to be taken a look at as a whole. There is so much difference between an Aries that has a Pisces rising and a Cancer moon versus an Aries sun that is also Aries rising and maybe has a Leo moon. These two people will get angry to different extents, even though they both have an Aries sun sign or they are the Aries zodiac sign. And honestly, when I look at this TikTok, all they're doing is placing the air and the earth signs at the bottom of the list and the water and the fire signs at the top of the list. And that's just so not true. You can have earth signs that are quite fiery, and you can also have water signs that are quite mellow and not prone to being angry. So yes, I wanted to start off with this one because it's just so blatantly not true. And I hope for all of us that when we see these types of videos on TikTok, we can just quickly scroll past them.
Red flag. Red flag. Red flag. Red flag.
All right, so this one is quite interesting because it's sort of like the previous TikTok, but she goes a little bit further. She acknowledges that there is like Mercury sign and there's, other stuff happening in the birth chart. But the whole idea that something is a red flag in someone's birth chart is just so completely wrong. The way astrology works is that every placement has an opportunity and a challenge. It has sort of a resource or a way of being, of thinking, of doing that comes really easily to it, and a different part that is sort of like its shadow. When we have a Scorpio Mercury, I think that's the first example that she used in the TikTok. when we have a Scorpio Mercury in a birth chart, there is this ability to dive deep, ability to write in a very deep manner, in a way that dives straight into the topics, maybe even writing about taboo sorts of topics or writing about death. There's all these beautiful possibilities with the Scorpio Mercury. And at the same time, of course, there are also pitfalls that a person with this type of placement can fall into. You know, they can be too broody. They can, go down the deep dark hole of the mind. So please, this is another type of TikTok video I want you to scroll right past, because honestly, there are no placements that are good or bad. There are no placements in anybody's birth chart that are green or red. You know, a good way to illustrate this is with Hitler's birth chart. I bet you there are things in Hitler's birth chart that others throughout history might also have had in their birth chart. That doesn't mean that now everybody that has the same Mercury sign as Hitler is right away a red flag. It just means that the way that type of Mercury or Venus or sun sign manifested in that particular chart of Hitler, for example, was just a very negative and a very sort of evil extreme of how it could manifest. So if you have anything in common with Hitler's chart, don't panic. If you have anything that she mentions as red flags, don't panic. I promise you, there is a higher way, a higher approach to every placement in your birth chart.
Astrology isn't real, then why does Halloween fall in Scorpio season? Why is Christmas in Capricorn, the sign of traditions, even though we know his birthday wasn't in December? Why is Easter in Pisces, the spiritual sign, in the Scorpio decan, which has to do with death and transformation? Why does public school start and stop during a Mercury-ruled sign? Why is the presidential inauguration at the beginning of Aquarius, which rules society? Speaking of Aquarius, why is Valentine's Day in the Venus decan of Aquarius, which is more about friendships and understanding that it's a societal thing and less of a one-on-one relationship thing?
Okay, so this is a TikTok that I don't necessarily want to disprove as wrong, because obviously I'm an astrologer, so I do believe astrology is real. But I want to talk about the fact that his argument doesn't make sense. I think his point that a lot of the holidays or important events throughout the year fall in just the perfect seasons. We go back to school during a Mercury-ruled period of the year. Mercury rules the mind and learning and talking, speaking. So while there are a lot of these cases, which he is pointing out in this video, I don't think that means that astrology is real. I do think what that shows us is that there could be an influence of during these seasons that perhaps people, back when these traditions were established, these people were already feeling those types of energies, or they were already thinking in that sort of manner, with Virgo season and it being ruled by Mercury. You see a lot of that attention of, summer is ending, the heat is dying off. Perhaps we want to draw back to our home. We maybe feel a bit more rested after the summer. We do feel like reading, expanding our mind. We feel like improving ourselves. So it also makes sense that that's the time that we go back to school. And honestly, people in the southern hemisphere don't follow this pattern. Like, kids don't go back to school. I'm pretty sure in Australia kids don't go back to school during Virgo season. But I do think what his point illustrates really well is that astrology got started as a holistic study, a study that was taking a look at what was happening on Earth and what was happening up in the heavens with all of the planets. And I do think that, it's difficult to know like which came first, how did they decide like, okay, obviously this is Virgo season, but how did astrologers back in the day decide that Mercury is the one that rules Virgo? Is it that they observed during Virgo season these types of qualities, and maybe they observed similar types of qualities when specific things were happening with Mercury in the sky? And that's why they thought, okay, yes, Mercury should be the ruler of Virgo. I do think it illustrates that there's a connection, and that a lot of our life today does reflect what's happening in the sky. Even though we like to think that we're so secular, we're not very religious, and we don't need any of that stuff, we're quite scientific-based society, there are actually so many parts of our society today that are really deep-rooted into the practice of astrology. Because at the end of the day, the practice of astrology was just about this sort of holistic approach to what's happening with nature, and consequently with planets, and seeing the sort of effects or changes that has here on Earth. But it doesn't prove astrology is real.
What is your sign, Margot?
I'm a Cancer, but I don't actually identify as a Cancer.
What are the traits that you don't identify with?
So not that I know too much about astrology, but as far as I'm aware, the main traits of a Cancer is that you're very emotional and a real homebody, and I don't feel like I'm either of those things.
I'm a Scorpio, but I don't like saying that.
Why?
Because people always go,
Why would a Scorpio say?
It's just everyone's got this like,
Scary and
ooh,
fun.
watch
What
out. I guess I better watch out for that tail.
Which is what
You were gonna say it. I know.
I love the energy between them. It's so fun. And this is honestly really fun. I love hearing people in the limelight, celebrities, talk about astrology and how they perceive it. And honestly, some of them, like for example, Dua Lipa, are really into astrology and have an astrologer that they work with on the regular. But I thought this TikTok was really interesting to talk about because it shows sort of misconceptions that get attached to zodiac signs. And especially with, okay, if this is wrong, excuse me, but I think his name is Ryan Gosling. But this is especially true with what Ryan is saying in this video, that he hates telling people he's a Scorpio, because all of a sudden people start judging you or labeling you, and you can see, perhaps these types of people watched a bit too many TikToks that said, red flag, if somebody's a Scorpio, don't go near them. But please don't just assume everything about a person just because you know their sun sign. It can tell you quite a lot, but it definitely does not tell you everything. I think the more interesting part of this TikTok, though, is what Margot, oh my God, I can't say her name. Margot. Miss Robbie. What she says in this video is actually the super interesting point and the reason why I wanted to talk about this TikTok. Because it can happen that sometimes people don't identify with their sun sign. And honestly, there's many reasons why this can happen. I watched another TikTok where she said her birth time is correct. So that's already crossed off the list. But if you're not sure, check your birth time, first of all, because that could be the reason why you don't feel connected to your Cancer sign, or to your zodiac sign, I should say. Second of all, it could be because you don't understand the rest of it. You could have a Cancer sun, but at the same time, you might also have a Leo moon and a Sagittarius ascendant. And having those two more fiery placements could sort of diminish a little bit of that Cancerian energy, or at least not make it to the extent where you are like Margaret, oh my God, sorry. Like she said in the TikTok, it doesn't manifest to the extreme of like you're always crying or you're always at home. And then finally, I also want to say to anybody that feels misrepresented with their astrology sign, their sun sign, is that perhaps you haven't really considered the true depth of that zodiac sign. A lot of what's on the internet nowadays is quite surface level, and I get it. We live in a very fast-paced world. But perhaps, you know, whoever's a Cancer sign, to Margaret, in this video, I would say, think about the fact that a Cancer has a very strong shell and a very soft inside. So you might be quite protective of your insides, of your inner world, of your inner emotions, and you only let people that you trust close to you so that you can show them that part. It might not mean that you want to stay at home or that you want to be a mother, but you carry a little bit more of that motherly energy with you. And that could mean that you meet somebody on the bus and they start telling you their whole life story and they start confessing to you. And you might find over and over that people feel that Cancerian energy in you. They feel it's a safe space to express themselves, to share their emotions, and they do that as a result. So honestly, those are some of the reasons why you might not feel like you identify with your zodiac sign. But please, if you feel like it, don't dismiss astrology just because of that. Give it a chance, I would say.
There are two zodiac signs that are essentially God's favorites. And if you're not religious, the universe's favorites. And you know what? It's not fair. Can you guess who they are? I'm going to give you a moment. Before I reveal, however, leave a comment with who you believe are astrologically the universe's favorites. I'm curious what people think. All right, it's time. The universe's favorites are Sagittarius and Pisces. Are you surprised? I'm going to assume no. But why? The answer is simple, really. Their planetary dignity. What's that? Well, you see, every planet has zodiac signs that it's strong in and signs that it's weak in. Strong is considered dignity. Weak is considered debility. Two of these planets are considered benefic, which means generally prosperous in nature, Venus and Jupiter. Two are considered malefic in nature, aka challenging, Mars and Saturn. And the other three are left up to interpretation. But generally, they're peregrine, aka neutral. The Sun, Moon, and Mercury. Sagittarius and Pisces are the favorites because they gain dignity from Jupiter, the greater benefic. And their debility, aka weakness, comes from Mercury, the only neutral planet. And Pisces is like the supreme favorite because it also gains dignity from the other benefic, Venus. What makes these guys the true favorites, however, is the fact that they have no connection whatsoever to either of the malefic planets.
I know that he's trying to sort of make a really fun astrology video, and I'll give that to him. It's really fun how he sort of makes up this thing of like the universe's favorite or God's favorite. So I love that. Credit to you. But first of all, can you please get to the point? Like, oh my goodness, this video took so long. He took so long to get to the point. It irritated me very much. But to get to what he was actually saying, it is quite complex what he was trying to explain. So if you're somebody that's quite new to astrology, this video might go way over your head. But he's basically talking about which planet rules which signs and which planets feel sort of better in which signs and a little bit worse or a little bit uncomfortable in other signs. And while I do think his theory is super interesting, it basically says that, okay, Sagittarius and Pisces, they are ruled by planets that are essentially seen as good, like Venus and Jupiter, and they are not signs where like the bad planets, Mars and Saturn, are connected to in any type of way. So therefore, they are like the favorites. It's a very interesting theory, but I do think it falls a little bit into the practice that honestly a lot of people tend to do, which is label planets as good or bad. Label Venus and Jupiter, you know, if you are ruled by Venus or Jupiter, that you're somehow blessed, or you're the universe's favorite, or your entire life is going to be easy. And if you're ruled by Mars or Saturn, your whole life is going to be difficult. And I really hope that we can start to see past that. I hope that most of us in this community can believe beyond that, or can understand that planets are not inherently good or bad. And honestly, like, how many Pisces do you know that struggle with maybe addiction, or struggle with boundaries? Does that to you feel like they're God's favorite or the universe's favorite? I'm not trying to harp on Pisces by any means. They're a beautiful zodiac sign. And I'm just trying to show you that, like we said earlier, every zodiac sign has its potentials and its downfalls. You know, I know many Aries that I think they're the ones that are blessed by the universe, even though they're ruled by Mars, which is a bad planet, because they are fearless. They go after what they want. And because of that, the universe favors them. Often when you ask for something, you're way more likely to get it than if you don't. Often if you speak up, you are more likely to change things than if you don't. And somebody that has a lot of that Martian energy, like an Aries zodiac sign, is more likely to do that. So, I mean, if you're Sagittarius and Pisces, yay, have a little celebration dance after you watch this TikTok. But honestly, it doesn't mean much. Venus and Jupiter are both planets that can bring hardship with themselves. And yeah, sorry, but you're not anybody's favorite. Okay, I shouldn't say that. You're not God's favorite. All the zodiac signs are amazing. So please just stop labeling things as good or bad. And that's it. That was the last TikTok that I prepared for this discussion. I have to see how much of this I edit out, but it looks like this is going to be like a 20-minute video. I honestly was thinking like, I need to look for more TikToks because I don't have enough for this video, but I think 5 was the perfect number. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of these 5 TikToks, if you have your opinion to share on them. And yeah, let me know if you want another one of these. I'd love to go on TikTok again and find some more strange things people are saying on there when it comes to astrology. And before we close off, I wanted to thank all of you so much for 1,000 subscribers. I am so happy that we have grown to 1,000 of us here on this relatively small channel. I'm so excited to continue to grow and to get to even 2,000. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure that you do. And Rosie Roses 85, you won the 1,000 subscribers giveaway. You get a free reading. So please reach out to me on Instagram or on YouTube in the community posts. Let me know your email address so we can go ahead and schedule your free reading. Thank you so much for joining me, and enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy watching the rest of your TikToks. Bye for now.